Today on the Mr. Maple podcast, Matt and Tim discuss the Ghost series.
Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show podcast. It's Buchholz week here at Mr. Maple, and on our YouTube channel, we've been covering constant content. We joke that Shark Week's outdated. We're bringing Buchholz week, and so there's a lot of great content on our YouTube channel. I highly encourage you, if you haven't already, and you're an audio listener only, jump over to the Mr. Maple Show on YouTube. There's some incredible footage around Buchholz Nursery, and I think you're going to be blessed to enjoy our 7 days a week content there. We're always providing gardening content. But if you're finding us for the first time through hashtag Buchholz Week, definitely go check it out. There's some incredible tours of that garden.
Hey y'all, I'm Tim. That's my brother Matt. We're MrMaple.com. We do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples. We ship directly to your door. And Buchholz Week is all about Talon Buchholz, who's introduced so many great introductions of Japanese maples, from Geisha Gone Wild to Golden Falls to Japanese Princess, and many of the Ghost series. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the Ghost series Japanese maples and the ranking that Talon Buchholz did. And Matt and I've got our own rankings as well.
Yeah, Talon has the Flora Wonder blog, and he recently did a kind of a breakdown of his 1 through 9 for the Ghost series. And that's how we're going to format this. We're going to drop in 1 through 9 with his. We're going to give our own rankings on each, but give you a little bit more in-depth information on each of the 9 members of that original Ghost series. Now, if you're not familiar, Talon Buchholz, who's a friend and mentor of ours, originated the Ghost series in the early 90s. And the Ghost series basically was coined by a reporter that came to interview him. He wasn't actually calling it the Ghost series, but he had this collection of ghost maples that became very popular for collecting in this format. I think we've kind of helped revamp it and keep a few of these alive in the trade a little bit. He even jokes in his blog that you're not going to find some of these anywhere except for Mr. Maple these days. But the Ghost series in itself, I think, is an important part of Japanese maple history. It really shows a lot of what collecting was becoming in the early 90s. And I think especially several of these trees are kind of cornerstones in Japanese maple history. They're kind of a turning point where Japanese maples became more popular to the masses in especially North America around this 1990s time frame. And I think the Ghost series is what pushed that a lot. I think people saw, how flashy and how interesting Japanese maples could be. And it really became kind of a pinnacle moment for taking Japanese maples to that next level.
And I think Talon found a way to market reticulated Japanese maples. This means you see the veins of the leaf of the Japanese maple. And the veins of the leaf are often one color, while the rest of the color of the leaf is another color. And that gives a stark contrast. And he thought it looked very eerie and ghost-like. So he created a few different ghosts that then eventually became a series. We'll get more into that here in just a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to start at number 9 for Talon Buchholz and work his way down to number 1 on his rankings. And Matt and I will discuss our rankings at the very end of the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, we will have both my list of plants, Matt's list, and Talon's list, so you can compare where each of us ranked the 9 members of the Ghost series.
Hey, and if you're catching us and you say, hey, I thought that was your favorite the other day, I'll chuckle and let you know that in going through Talon's notes, he has listed 3 different trees as his favorite amongst the Ghost series. So we're including his most recent listings. Talon, I've certainly seen him say multiple of these are his favorites at different times. So it's not just us. There's a lot of favorites, and it changes constantly. It might depend on which season you catch me in too on some of these. Like right now, this is my current top 9, how they go. And if you like this thing, let us know. Maybe we'll do a new Ghost breakdown as well, because he has he quit using the term ghost, and there are some trees we throw into that category of new ghosts that are kind of in that same lineage. But let's drop right into it at number 9. And again, we're going to go by Talon's rankings. Number 9, he put in Martha Ghost. Now, Martha Ghost is one of the rarest of the Ghost series. It's one you don't see in the trade much anymore. In fact, Talon jokes in his recent blog that perhaps Mr. Maple Company in North Carolina is the only place you'll find this one anymore. I think part of that has to do with, the lady he named this for and him didn't part ways on the best of terms. I think she got let go from the nursery pretty quickly after he named it. We were actually going through looking for the Ghost series, and Tim and I are big Acer geeks. You know this, so we're doing a podcast all about maples, so you can guess how geeky we get. I was staying with Peter Gregory, and he had a lot of old back copies of the newsletters from the Maple Society. Like, Tim and I joined the Maple Society around 2008 late. Our first meeting was in 2009. And so we had those quarterlies like cataloged from that time forward, every single one. And so I was at Peter Gregory's and I'm going through his library and he has all these back copies of catalogs, and we were already asking people for different editions of it. And so I was going through a catalog there and it had the Ghost series, and Tim and I had this one. I think Peter had mailed us, just bukus of old back editions. And I know Frank Biles also sent us a lot of back editions. We were going through a 90s catalog and it had the Ghost series includes Martha Ghost.
We had all the other Ghost series except for Martha Ghost, and our grandmother was named Martha, and we were like, man, well, we've got to get a hold of Martha Ghost. And it took a lot of work to find someone who had a Martha Ghost. Eventually we found a customer of Talon's who had one in the ground, and then they dug it up and mailed it to us.
Right, that's how persistent we were. We called a customer of his. We had to track down a customer of his from the time-appropriate time frame for when this was being sold wholesale, and then somebody that kept one, and then somebody that was willing to dig it up and sell it to us. So we bribed somebody to get one out of their garden. And from that, though, the Ghost series, gets more completed because Martha Ghost gets back into the trade.
Now, Martha Ghost has showed to us to be this very unique shade of pink, and it can get some green veining in there. It is a pink red, and it is one of the slower growing forms of the Ghost series for us.
Now, not a lot of people know this one because it hadn't been out there unless you got it from us. I would say I would compare it most to something like Olson's Frosted Strawberry. Although it's uniquely different from that, I think it shares more similarities to that than the rest of the Ghost series. It's got reds and purples going on within it. Really showy plant, though. I actually listed this much higher on my list. I put Martha Ghost at number 5 on my list of the Ghost series. So I did rank it a bit higher. Maybe Talon downranks it a little bit because him and Martha didn't end on such good terms.
And Martha, I put it number 4 on my list. And the reason I did is because it's rarity, but it looks really cool. Even Talon, when he came to visit us, when the Maple Society had their meeting here in North Carolina, he took a photo of it and said, if it looked this good for me, I might still propagate it in his blog. So I know that it is a very beautiful tree. It looks very good for us here in Western North Carolina in our cold frames. And we've been growing it for quite a while, trying to get it in numbers, but it is a slow grower. I mean, for me, it may be a slower grower than Baby Ghost.
It's close. Like those are definitely the two smallest members of the Ghost family here. My wife has this dream that we're going to build an entire haunted garden. So we're going to put specimens out of each of the 9 Ghost series and have this little enchanted forest at our house. So she has this plan of putting each of these out, and I think that's a cool way to do it. I'm definitely going to have a display of the entire Ghost series together.
It was interesting here that most of his Ghost series are introduced in 1995. I mean, there's one before. Most of them get named with that Ghost series name in 95. Mm-hmm. And Martha was named around that time period. But Martha is also the only ghost that's specifically named for somebody. Right. And as we know, Talon had many different managers at his nursery, and this lady was in a managerial role at the nursery. It makes sense that whenever she left the nursery, he discontinued a plant that had her name on it.
Or so we're told. I really wasn't around to know the whole story there, but that's the way I'd heard it. Really cool plant, though. I think it could definitely be higher on my list. It's showy. I think it's probably the one that everybody needs. And don't worry, it's coming back to Mr. Maple. I think if you're trying to complete the full Ghost series, that's typically the one that people don't have.
Yeah, I mean, it is the rarest of the Ghost series. It is a very beautiful tree as well. And that's the reason I've got it so high on my list. But I understand why Talon's got it at number 9.
Right. All right, let's jump up this list. What do we got at number 8, Tim?
Number 8 on Talon's list of his Ghost series is Baby Ghost.
Now, much like Martha Ghost, he doesn't exactly have the original origin of this one. He doesn't have a specific plant that this one came from. It was named around that 1995 and introduced into the trade kind of that 1996 time frame. Now, Baby Ghost is a bright red to soft pink red, and it is one of the dwarfest members of this group, and it definitely has a more smaller stature and smaller leaf than many of the other Ghost series. This one comes in at around 5 to 6 feet tall, even in 10 years, making it much smaller than the other candidates.
I will say that Baby Ghost is the smallest, but it is also the least reticulated. I mean, it's a very beautiful plant, but it doesn't have as much contrast as many of the other members of the Ghost series. I remember walking around Kubota Gardens with Talon Buchholz, and he saw his Baby Ghost that he'd sold to Kubota Gardens. and he said this is one of the earliest on baby ghosts that I've produced, and this is doing exactly what I thought it was going to do. It is low growing, it's more sprawling out, it's much shorter, and it still has some good reticulation.
We'll be interviewing Don Brooks at the Maple Society meeting this year as a podcast. He's been long-term curator. He's recently retired, but of Kubota Gardens. Many beautiful maples in that garden there in Seattle. I believe the baby ghost in that garden may be the original baby ghost, the very first of one. And we love to track down whenever we can the original, so it's pretty cool to talk about the very first one of something. Baby ghost, though, I think, it's hard to rank this list because there's not a single member of the Ghost series that didn't hit her. I mean, it's like you're ranking Hall of Famers here, right? So it's like you see Baby Ghost down number 8, you're like, that's too low. But you just got to look at what's in front of it.
For me, I put it at number 9. For me, it was the least for me because, again, I don't see it as reticulated as the others. Mm-hmm. And so while it's a very beautiful tree on the Ghost series, it's lower ranked for me. But Talon put it at number 8 for him just because he said, one, he didn't make much money off of it because he somehow lost it in production. He said it was an accident.
Funny how that works. Those ones that make you more money get higher on your list, right?
It was an accident that it sort of lost out of production for him. And
we'll get him one back.
He lost one out of the gardens. And so he's not been grafting it or producing it. And that's one of the reasons why it's so low on his list. But he does say he'd like to get it back in production.
I'll make sure that this year there is a baby ghost at Buchholz Gardens. We can make that happen. For me, I had it at number 7, so it's still pretty low on my list. It's in the the mid-level there out of 9. Amazing plant, though. Still one that, again, it's like cutting hairs here. You're like talking about Hall of Famers, so you feel bad seeing something all the way down at 7, but that is no way poo-pooing it. It's still an awesome tree.
Yeah, for the Ghost series, again, this one was introduced around 95. It is one of the more uniquely growing ghosts, though. I mean, most of the other ghosts are much taller growing, much faster growing, and so it is the smallest. But I know Matt's always joked about baby ghosts, like that is...
It's kind of creepy, right?
It's kind of
baby ghost. Everybody's scared. It's like at some point, all the horror films, which I hate horror films. I don't watch them anyway. There's enough junk to be worried about in life. I never watch horror films. But it's like at some point, what became the scariest thing to everybody is like scary children. So I was like, what is going on here? Like, why all the creepy kids? Anyway.
But coming next on Talon's list at number 7 of the Ghost series is Uncle Ghost.
I like this one a lot. Like, it was my number 4, so I ranked it a lot higher up than he did, obviously. For me, it's one of the more pink reds. It kind of rivals what Celebration does on some of those newer trees. I like Uncle Ghost a lot. It was a sister seedling to Purple Ghost, one of his early introductions there. We got to finish out the rest of the family members. We got Uncle. We got some more family members to go there in the Ghost. But I like it. Now, Talon noted that it was a seedling from Kasagiyama. He isn't propagating anymore. Again, I think that's one that definitely has a place in the market, though. It's been very popular for us. Uncle Ghost always tends to sell out. Great colorations. I've had customers that rank that one number 1. I mean, I think that's pretty high on a lot of our customers' list. It is a little rarer than some of the others, and I think that might have something to do with how much it sells out. It's not in the trade as much. I mean, we're one of the few people kind of pushing that one out there a lot, but I think that might be, part of the factor of why it sells out so quickly. But I see Uncle Ghost as a really nice plant.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, to me, it has a lot of the colors that people think of like Olson's Frosted Strawberry, a little more upright form. And it makes sense that it's from Kasagiyama. It's interesting with these Ghost series. I mean, Talon didn't introduce reticulated Japanese maples. What he did was found uniquely reticulated Japanese maples and found such a great way to market them with this Ghost series term. And Uncle Ghost is one of those ones that just has some really nice pink-red reticulation. I would say the closest thing to it is Martha Ghost, but Martha Ghost is much, much slower than Uncle Ghost. And
side by side, different shades. I mean, you can definitely see in the picture some similarities there. Again, it's all Hall of Famers, but I think that one is really a showstopper. I like its unique form. I like that it's a little denser than many of the others, a little slower growing than a lot of the other ones. It has a more irregular form than I would say a lot of the other more popular ghosts that we'll get to. It's a little bit more in that 8-foot kind of range in 10 years. It's a little faster than Baby Ghost, but definitely not the most vigorous of the group. It's like the 7 dwarfs. We got all the numbers here.
You ranked Uncle Ghost really high on your list.
I put it at number 4. I mean, I like the thing. I think it's got great colors. It's one of the more showy ones to me. I mean, I think it really pairs well with some of the other, super popular members there of the Ghost series. maybe I just like the pink color. I mean, I think it's really a showstopper there in the landscape. And for me, it stands out for sure.
For me, I had it at number 6. Talon had it at number 7. For me, it's just hard to compete with the other members of the Go series.
Well, you're just wrong.
There's just so many other good trees in this Go series to compete with, and it's hard to compete with that for
There's
Uncle
no
Ghost.
losers on this list. Everything on this list is a hitter. All right, so coming in here at number 6 on Talon's top of the top 9, we've got Dark Ghost. Now, this is the newest member of the Ghost series. Talon actually apologizes because he said before this that he wasn't putting Ghost on any more trees, but Dark Ghost still made the cut. That makes it an official member of the Ghost series.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mikazuki was the first tree that he introduced that didn't have a Ghost series name on it. And it looks very eerie. I mean, Mikazuki does. But Dark Ghost was introduced years and years later. It was introduced in 2015. And he thinks that Dark Ghost is an improved version of Uncle Ghost, is what he says.
I can see that. For me, it's so dark, you almost don't even see the reticulation. Like you mentioned, Baby Ghost not having a lot of that. I think Dark Ghost sometimes is like, it's like subtle. Like it's almost like a dark, black, red. And then you get some veining in it.
I think that's just the differences between Oregon and Western North Carolina. For us, I mean, Dark Ghost is a darker purple ghost. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, it's a darker purple ghost where you see some reticulation in it, but it's the darkest that I've seen of any of the Ghost series or those reticulated types.
Yeah, it was post-Ghost, but it still made the cut. So it was kind of interesting. There were probably 20 other introductions from Talon that were reticulated that were predecessors or around the same time frame as Dark Ghost. But hey, I mean, Talon Buchholz named it and it's got Ghost in it, so it's got to be part of that official Ghost series. That makes it in the list. I actually had that as my number 9. I think it's a great plant. I guess I'm more familiar with the other ones on the list, and so because the other ones almost seem more classic to me, being around since the 90s, this one being a 2015 introduction, and really not hitting the trade until maybe a couple years ago. I know we were one of the first places to offer it probably in 2019 or somewhere around that time frame. It really didn't hit the market much until probably 2018, 2019. For me, I think I probably put it at number 9 just because the other one seems so much more classic. Like I didn't grow up with that one in the Ghost series. It's like the new planet. You know what I'm saying? The other ones had that precedence to me, and they had a little bit more weight just because I've been doing this since 08, so I was dreaming about those trees in 08. I wasn't dreaming. We've really been doing this our whole lives. But 08, we started doing this business officially, and that one wasn't even in the trade until I'd been doing this 10 years almost.
Well, Dark Ghost, I brought it in at number 8, and to me, a lot of my listing is ranked on how well, like the differentiation between the reticulated veins and the rest of the color of the plant. And for us, Dark Ghost, like I mentioned, is so dark, you see some reticulation in there. That's why it's at number 8 for me. It definitely has a unique color for the Ghost series. I love that plant. And again, it has nothing to do with how bad of a plant Dark Ghost is. It just has to do with how good all the other members of the Ghost series is.
There's no not hitters, and we can say that every time. I do like that Dark Ghost is very vigorous. Like it is, it does tend to get out there for me. I would say it even rivals some of the most vigorous members of the Ghost series. It's one that has tended to exceed a foot of growth a year for me typically. So it does have an incredible amount of vigor to it. All the Ghost series that we're talking about today are going to work zones 5 through 9. We do list Dark Ghost at around 8 to 10 foot in a 10-year period, so giving it slight edge over some of the other ones we've mentioned in growth. I do think once it's established, it may even exceed that. Like the ones I've had in the ground for a little bit really have jumped.
So coming in next on Talon's list at number 5 is First Ghost.
I mean, dang, we're all the way down to 5 on his list for First. Now, First was the one that kicked the party off, right? I mean, this was the Ghost that all Ghosts came from. I mean, if you went back in the day and you went to Talon's secret area of plants, this one was just called Ghost. It wasn't called First, it was just Ghost. So this was the original Ghost. Talon found it as a mutant branch off Akashigatatsusawa, he states. And it's an interesting plant.
And Talon calls that Benishikatsusawa now too. And I don't always agree with renaming plants like that, but Talon says that it doesn't have the Aka color in Akashigatsusawa. It has more of a Beni color.
At some point in Oregon, there did become a Beni Shigetatsusawa, and it may just have been to distinguish between the two color frames people were seeing. I know Fred Hooks was really popular on selling Beni Shigetatsusawa and kind of got that one around the trade. And it does come from people noticing distinct differences that are going on. I'm always careful to look for conditional differences, but I do think there was probably something going on there. I also think a lot of these probably share a lot of commonality with the original Peaches and Cream. And that original form Peaches and Cream, First Ghost, I think, definitely shares a lot of similarities. And Talon's alluded to this too in his blog with White Peaches. I think the two may be synonymous. I think both could be a continuing sport. That if they're not off the same tree, they at least have the same traits they've sported into.
It'd kind of be like how if they're not off the exact same tree, it'd be kind of like how Geisha throws Geisha Gone Wild and Shiraz, and they're pretty darn similar.
You get this incredible purple border. In fact, First Ghost is the symbol for Buchholz Nursery. It's one of the most famous nursery symbols in the world. And we have Benny Shishahinga as our logo, and I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't think that we wanted a leaf logo kind of like Buchholz Nursery. It's so iconic. It really stands out, and First Ghost is really what they're known for. In fact, we have a painting or a digital art print that Talon sent Tim and I of that First Ghost, and it's something really special to us because it is the symbol for Buchholz Nursery.
Now, that tree leaves out in the spring with a nice purple border, and it just has these purple-red tinges. It looks like the tips of the leaves were dipped in paint, and you get a creamy white leaf there with green veins. And it gives such an amazing leaf there that, for me, I put it at number 2 because, one, I've always looked up to Talon Buchholz. He's always been a mentor to us. I've always seen him as the Michael Jordan of Japanese maples. It's his logo.
I mean, the first time we saw him, Tim got his autograph. We were standing outside in the hotel playing rock, paper, scissors on who had the most guts. So was going to knock on his door and get him to sign the Buchholz poster we had.
Yeah, and First Ghost, to me, it's so iconic. I put it at number 2. I mean, that is such an amazing plant. It was the first tree that Talon introduced that became Ghost. And it wasn't actually the first of the series he found, but it was the first one that got the Ghost name on it. And it is an amazing plant. For me, I like how it has this semi-pendulous habit, so it's upright, but it's more of like a shrub form upright where this has semi-pendulous branching on the side. It has some really good fall colors as well. I mean, everything about this tree makes it an amazing plant.
Yeah, he saw this as a sport there on Benny Shigetatsu Sawa, and he said it was hovering like a ghost in the garden right at dusk. So he was looking at the tree, lights coming through it, and it really just lit up. So I had First Ghost pretty high up on my rankings as well. I had it at number 3. Again, it might be the most iconic of the whole group. So if we're basing it off how iconic it is, that's number 1. I mean,
without First Ghost, there's no other ghosts.
Yeah.
I mean, there was already plants that had reticulated styles, but there wasn't a ghost series. And this is one of the ones that started to develop that series with the name Ghost.
Love that purple border, too, in the early spring. You really get a little what you like about Sumagaki on top of a reticulated tree. So you kind of get just something really funky going on. It fades that purple border out to more of a pale yellowish green color with that reticulated veining. And it was really, just a showstopper. It brought something new to the game completely. And that purple border really just highlights the whole thing. And that's probably why it's a symbol for Buchholz Nursery. I mean, that leaf makes a crisp, clean logo. It's distinctive. It's iconic. Yeah, I mean, I had it at number 3, but I could put that at number 1. If I thought about what I thought was the most famous and iconic, that could be higher up. But I put it at 3 for my favorites.
One of the reasons I like First Ghost, not only did it develop the Ghost series, but the name First Ghost implies there are other ghosts and makes you go ahead in the collector mentality that I have. I want to get the rest of them. And it just creates this situation where you want to collect the entire Ghost series. I mean, there's 9 different trees here, and the honorary member of Ghost Dancer that is his neighbor developed the same time Talon was introducing First Ghost. His neighbor was introducing Ghost Dancer. And First Ghost is just an amazing reticulated Japanese maple. And if you're starting out with the Ghost series, a great plant to start out with is that First Ghost.
If you don't have a Ghost maple, this could be your first one.
Exactly.
All right, y'all, let's get into it. Number 4 on Talon's list, that's how we're going to start prefacing all of them, is Grandma Ghost.
Grandma Ghost is a nice reticulated style. It has a very similar habit to First Ghost, but it has a creamy foliage and some serrations to the foliage as well.
Now, Talon lists this one as a sister seedling to Amber Ghost, which might surprise some people. And he also says its origin comes from Benny Shigetatsu Sawa. Much broader leaf than Amber Ghost. It's much more ruffled. It's got more divisions, and a bigger overall leaf. It is one of the more pale versions of a ghost, so you get a lot of white going on in that with a large kind of ruffled form.
And when Talon says originated from Benishigatsusawa, or what we often call Akashatsusawa, what he's actually saying is it came as a seedling. And that is so unique because the colors on Grandma Ghost are really not much like what you see on Akashatsusawa. There's often a lot more pinks on Akashatsusawa, and with Grandma Ghost, it's more of that creamy color. And one thing I like about Grandma Ghost is it's a solid tree on the landscape, some good reticulation, and you get some good yellow to orange fall color.
Yeah, this is another one that's been around since 1995. It stood the test of time. It stood up in the trade. I think this is one that everybody still offers. It's popular in the trade for good reason. It sells out. I morbidly laugh when people buy a memory tree of Grandma Ghost. I'm like, that's a little dark. But we do get some people that call it for memory trees for Grandma Ghost. Anyway, but awesome plant, and it's one that, it definitely has a place in everybody's garden. It's got so much showy characteristics to it. That fluffy, airy look it has. Like the bigger leaf kind of just gives it like a cloud-like approach to it. It feels like a big rain cloud to me.
To me, I put it at number 7, and that's just because I like many of the other Ghost series with similar colors better. Talon ranked it down at number 4, which I'm surprised he put it down that low. I mean, for me, it's a number 7. Where'd it fall for you, Matt?
Yeah, I dropped that one all the way down to 8. I do like it a lot. There's no, it's like the Hall of Fame, team here. There's nobody that doesn't get home runs on this team. I put Grandma Ghost at number 8. Still love that plant. I mean, I've got a beautiful one in the display garden. I think it's a must-have plant for everybody.
So coming in next for Talon at number 3, he has Acer Palmatum Sister Ghost.
Yeah, I mean, again, no misses here when you're talking about the Ghost series. This is one of those original 1995 Ghost series as well. So it's been around the whole time. And it's just one that I think has that iconic look to it. You definitely know you're looking at part of the Ghost series when you see this one. And I think Talon, like Tim mentioned earlier, there were reticulated Japanese maples before this. But I think Talon was really one of the first people to really start evaluating all the differences and really starting to separate out and say, okay, these are reoccurring traits. Which ones are the best of each type?
I mean, I like Sister Ghost. It's one of my favorite of the Ghost series. I put it at number 5, but I like the way it has such a ruffled kind of edge to the leaf. To me, it's a little more showy than Grandma Ghost. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic plant. I know when Talon did his presentation, he was supposed to give his presentation to SNA, and Matt and I ended up giving his presentation that day.
That was crazy. I know we've probably told this story before, but Tim and I are pretty young nurserymen at the time. We were friends with Talon. Just respectfully, we never really asked him for much back then. I think that's why he liked us. We didn't bug him for anything. And we just had this aura of respect for him. And we got asked to speak at the Southern Nurseryman Association in Atlanta. At the time, that's the biggest room we ever spoke to, bar none. There were 350 nurserymen in the room. We're the young guys. We're standing up there. We presented, they're about 30-minute presentations. We presented our presentation. I know Bree Arthur was presenting in between us, a good friend of ours as well. Well, the original plan, Talon had something come up and he couldn't make it. And so Talon had sent his notes to Don through us. So he had emailed the notes to us. We'd printed them. Don didn't use a lot of tech back in those days. And so Talon had sent it to us to make sure that Don got his presentation. And Don was going to give Talon's presentation on his new introductions. Well, we walk off stage with about 30 minutes to go because Bree's presenting in between us and Talon. And Don Shadow goes, "Boys, I really like that presentation. I'm going to let you do Talon's as well." So Tim and I were a little thrown to the wolves, but you know what? I have to say I was quite impressed that Tim and I pulled it off. I don't think anybody in the room knew that we hadn't even seen the presentation before it aired. So, I mean, we had skimmed through it, but we had no idea like the magnitude of everything in the presentation. So it's kind of a pop quiz time for us a little bit. And I think we nailed it. I don't think anybody knew that we were flying by the seat of our pants in front of 350 people giving a presentation on Talon Buchholz introductions, most of which we had familiarized ourselves with.
Well, during this time, the notes that we have from his presentation actually says that Sister Ghost was his favorite of the Ghost series.
Aha, see, it changes. Everybody's top 5 changes. You gotta keep doing those top 5s we do on YouTube, because you ask somebody in a year, they might have a whole different number 1.
I like Talon. He's no holds bar. I mean,
he lets you know what he thinks.
He lets you know what he thinks. He said the original tree was sold to someone in Washington, and he called out the specific nursery by name in the garden's blog and says they still haven't paid for it. So the original Sister Ghost is somewhere in Washington, probably sold to someone who came and visited this garden center, and he said the people who bought it from him never paid for it.
Man, that's crazy. He is a hoot. I love that. I love that he is no holds barred. His blog is famous for that. Once upon a time, Talon came to Western North Carolina, and his blog was pretty no holds barred as regards to the Maple Society meeting that Tim and I put on. This is probably in early 2011 or 2012, if I had to think about it. And I told Tim, I said, don't be offended if in Talon's blog he says our nursery was weedy and overcrowded and ugly or something. Don't just let it roll right off your back. Don't get offended. We took him to the Biltmore House, and he didn't have too many favorable things to say about it. We took him to a friend of ours' garden in Asheville, which I thought was okay. He didn't have too many favorable things to say about that garden either. And so I said, Tim, obviously we're next week, so just hold your breath. We like this guy. Don't be offended. One of the nicest things, and I think probably one of the more encouraging things that's ever happened to us professionally, is we had Talon mention in his blog. He said, this is two of my favorite people in the nursery industry, just resounding praise for our nursery and for our love for maples. He said he wished that we were his son so we could take over his business one day, and just super cool. I mean, I think from that moment forward, we'd already had this level of respect for him, and I think we kind of stood back a little bit. But I think at that point forward, we had a real friendship with him.
It was crazy because after that point, boxes would just start arriving, and there would be plants or books or handmade books from Japan, and he just started passing so much stuff on to us that I'm so glad. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that he's done this since he's said he's retiring, and now he's told us that when we're old, hopefully it's our kids, but our job is to pass on the information and to pass on the books and the literature and everything to the next generation.
I'm not gonna lie, some of those handmade books he sent us from Japan, he said, I'm sending these to you guys, and when the time's right, you'll send them to the right person too. That gave me chills. Like that felt next level to me. And it's one of the biggest honors we'll ever have professionally.
It's crazy to me because I know Talon from our visits with him walked around and learned from J.D. Vertrees. Mm-hmm. J.D. Vertrees mentored him and sort of showed him the ropes. And it's just such an honor that he's been so kind to us. But Sister Ghost, originated as a seedling from Kasagiyama. A lot of these ghost series are coming from either Akashatsusawa, or as Talon calls it, Benishiatsusawa, and Kasagiyama. Now, Akashatsusawa is often low and kind of, it's more of a slower growing type that has more spreading outwards habit. Kasagiyama is a little more upright, reticulated style. And you often see like Sister Ghost, it's a little more upright, creamy form. I mean, people love it because it's vigorous and it makes it more tree form than say something like First Ghost. And so it's interesting when you look at the parentage to actually understand the style of the plant sometimes follows that.
Now, back then, one of the reasons why Talon was saying that Sister Ghost was his favorite of the Ghost series is he was amazed that it could handle full sun in many parts of Oregon without burning at all. So it does have a level of sun tolerance, even being a variegated, almost all white plant. Now, I rank Sister Ghost, on my list at number 6. Love the plant, really showy. Maybe I go for a little bit more flash on my highest ranked ones, but that's one I still love.
I put it at number 5, and to me, I think that's pretty high on the Ghost series. I mean, there's 9 different members of the Ghost series, and Sister Ghost, to me, it's a solid plant. I mean, it's really high up there on the list, and for that creamy style, the only one that's above that for me is First Ghost, which to me, like we talked about earlier, is super iconic.
All right, we're getting into the top 2 here. At number 2, Talon's got Purple Ghost.
Now, we say that in his blog, he says, this may be my number 1.
Right. And you know why that is? It's just like for us. Purple Ghost is the best seller of the whole list. Purple Ghost is the number 1 in sales tree on this list. And I would say Purple Ghost is the most iconic member of the Ghost series. It's been around the world more than anybody.
The Purple Ghost can give you lavender shades, diffuse purple shades, and it is more purple red. It's got a nice reticulation to the foliage. And the fall color can be an amazing purple red. I mean, the original Purple Ghost stands in Buchholz display garden. The original code name on it was Kasag DG92. So it actually was the first selected of the Ghost series, but not the first named.
Yeah, I think there's actually a label somewhere around there that says Block 92. And we once went through there with Talon, and it was just some perfect red fall color, just this blazing red. Took a picture with Talon in front of that. It was just cool. It's just such a fun day. It was a kind of a day where we were visiting Oregon in the fall, and it was just one of those walk around, talk with Talon in the garden days, and phenomenal day. I mean, that picture encapsulates how much fun we were having. It was a ball. Now, Talon mentions also that it's been the most popular to-go series. Now, he says apparently it's sold thousands of them from the American and European gardens, and that one also originated from Kasagiyama. So this is a seedling from Kasagiyama. He thinks it's superior to Kasagiyama and many of the others in all respects. Officially, this one was found around 1990. I think 92 is when it actually started getting popular. Didn't get a name on it until after First Ghost. It was there in his evaluations block as one of his top secret items.
Yeah, named and introduced in 95 when he introduced many of the other Ghost series after First Ghost. And Purple Ghost is such an iconic tree. I mean, the colors on it are unreal. So unreal that sometimes people will take a photo of a tree and turn it purple and Photoshop it and put it on online trying to claim that it is Purple Ghost because Purple Ghost can go to unreal colors.
Yeah, it's one of the ones we always tell people. There's no blue Japanese maples. You know, people selling seed from China on eBay, they're faking it. They Photoshop that. There is a Purple Ghost maple. This is actually real. So look at some of the photos of that. It looks unreal, but it's outstanding. I think it's one of the most important Japanese maples historically that ever came out because I think Purple Ghost, I mean, it is the most sold version of the Ghost series, which is one of the most popular series for Japanese maples. And I think that makes it a pivotal point in Japanese maple history. I mean, this is a tree that really, to the average gardener, brought up what Japanese maples could be in their mind. Like, Japanese maples were kind of getting, into the lexicon of the average gardener's mindset in the 90s, the late 80s. Veritree's book was coming out. People were starting to learn about these different types of Japanese maples. Their eyes had been opened up to what was out there. People were getting outside of some of the more basics. And then Talon hits them with Purple Ghost. I mean, whoa, like the whole game's changed. That was a game changer for its era for Japanese maples.
Well, you got to think too. I mean, people were putting blood goods in their garden everywhere and seedlings that are red Japanese maples. Mm-hmm. And Purple Ghost gives you some maroons during the summer, but adds extra flair on top of that. And so it takes it to the next level. And so someone who's looking for a red upright tree could have something that's kind of red and upright, but then you can get purple colors that are unreal on top of that.
Right. Now, if we were ranking the People's Choice, that's the People's Choice. That's the number one selling member of the Ghost series.
I have that as number one. I mean, that's one of my favorite. It's my favorite of the Ghost series. I say that today. I may change like Talon tomorrow. But Purple Ghost is an amazing, amazing plant. It is a seedling from Kasagiyama, and again, it does have that more upright form. And that means it makes a good tree out there in the landscape. It can handle more sun in most situations.
More vigorous, too, than a lot of the other members here.
Now, all of these Ghost series we're talking about, if you give them morning sun and afternoon shade, you can really extend that reticulation longer on into the summer. And that reticulation, that ghost-like eerie variegation that these trees provide, gives you something very unique and different. And Purple Ghost, I mean, to me, that's my number one.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. And since I have the same answer as Talon Buchholz, I'm going to say you're wrong again. I have Purple Ghost at number 2.
Hey, Talon also said this may be his number 1, so he may be agreeing with me.
Yeah. We'll go with his most recent rankings. We'll just use the up-to-date information, not the old information.
Well, on his blog, his up-to-date information, he says this one may be my number 1.
Right. I could argue. I could have it up there, too. It is, like I said, I think this one is the most important on the list for its place in maple history. This one really changed the game. Like, when people saw this, they were like, oh, wait, what are these things? Like, I could collect these things? Like, I think for the average Japanese maple collector, when they saw Purple Ghost, it was a turning point in what we do in this industry. Like, it really changed the game.
It's one of the most purple maples out there. I mean, the people who fake the blue Japanese maples call them blue ghosts because of how unreal colors that Purple Ghost can actually provide.
Right.
I mean, there's real photos of Purple Ghost where it's lavender, it's purple, and people see that and they're like, that looks photoshopped. And it's not, there are some Photoshop photos of it out there, but you can go to our website on MrMaple.com and see real photos of Purple Ghost in different times of the season, you're just like,
and
wow.
full disclosure, you'll have some seasons, like seasonal conditions can't affect these. So you'll have some seasons where it leaves out a little more red. I've had some seasons where it was red in the spring more than purple. I've had some seasons where the entire tree was lavender and just exuded color. I mean, it just blew your socks off. You couldn't take a bad picture of it. Conditions and winter can be factors into the color here. It's another one's going to work zones 5 through 9. In that hotter zone 8 and 9, you may need to give it some more protection to give it its best color. It will green up quicker in full sun in a heavy zone 8.
Now, the fall color on it is simply amazing. That purple fuchsia color that it goes in the fall, I mean, it'll just make your jaw drop. Like Matt talked about, when we walked around with Talon Buchholz and we saw the original tree in his own display gardens, I mean, it just blew my mind how beautiful this tree is in the fall in a large specimen.
Now, we list this one again at 8 to 10 foot. It may even exceed that slightly in 10 years. I think it is on that upper scale for vigor for the Ghost series. But beautiful tree. And, if I'm ranking them, honestly, it might be the best fall color of the Ghost series as well. I mean, maybe my opinion might be a little skewed because of that beautiful original one in the garden, just flowing red. But probably the best fall color of just the Ghost series.
I don't know. Number one Talon's got on his Ghost series is Amber Ghost. And to me, that is the best fall color of the Ghost series.
Well, see, I'm not going to let you claim number one there because that is my number one overall in agreement with Talon Buchholz.
It's my number 3.
So, I don't know, man. Amazing plant. This one to me is the most next level. There's a lot of things to like about Amber Ghost. I mean, hard to go back and forth between amber and purple. If you've got one, you got to have the other one. They just go together. I mean, amber and purple, perfectly named, perfectly exhibit their colors. Amber has that amber glow to it, and it just kind of sets off. It has a lot going on there. Now, this was a seedling selected by Talon Buchholz, again in that original 1995, 1996 era. So it's been around a minute. Probably the second most popular per sales of any of the Ghost series as well.
Yeah, the thing I like about this is that amber color in the spring, the amber color that returns on the new growth during the summer. And the amber color is just so beautiful with that reticulated veins. I mean, it is the first maple that really gives you this color that's very unique and different. And as it starts to fade, it fades to like a lime green to a cream and then has that color come over top of it. I mean, it's just outrageous. The fall color of being just that bright orange red, to me, if I was ranking fall colors of the Ghost series, it'd be my number 1 because this plant is amazing in the fall. And to me, I'd rank it as one of my best fall colored Japanese maples. But Amber Ghost is a tree that can handle a lot more sun than many of the other Ghost series as well. But again, if you can give it some late day shade, that reticulation is going to hold longer and better throughout the season.
Now, Talon also lists this one as originating from Beni Shigetatsu Sawa or Aka Shigetatsu Sawa. It has more vigor than the rest of the Ghost series, so I would put this one closer to that 10-foot range in 10 years. Now, Talon also notes this. One of the reasons it's his favorite currently on his listings is he says that Amber Ghost has the best form of any of the Ghost series. So it does have more of an iconic Japanese maple display. I would say something more traditional with that of like a fire glow Japanese maple.
Now, Amber Ghost, the original Amber Ghost, is in Oroki Gardens. That's the private gardens owned by Michael Steinhardt. Now, Michael Steinhardt is a guy who's just got some amazing gardens, and he's got animals too. Matt and I got the privilege of going and visit his gardens a few years ago.
There's no budget up there. It's a billionaire's garden, and you know it when you walk in because when he goes to a nursery, he doesn't buy the small plants. He buys the biggest, oldest one. Like I know for a fact a nursery he went to, he said, well, I'll give you $1,000 for every year that plant is old. So you can imagine some of the plants around this garden are whoa. And we would love maybe I have some friends that work there. Maybe we can get it back in and do a tour there someday.
Amber Ghost, though, is amazing. And it's at the original Oroki Gardens. And literally, Oroki Gardens is this beautiful place where you're walking through looking at all this beautiful gardens. And then you walk up and there's a zebra exhibit. But it doesn't look like an exhibit. It looks like you're walking with them. And then you walk up and then there's camels. But Oroki Gardens, it's just this beautiful collection of plants and animals that's just outrageous and more plants. And it's just one of these things where you just keep seeing more and more amazing plants. Amber Ghost, the original one, in those gardens.
It's been able to handle a good bit of sun for me and have exceptional color here in western North Carolina. Now, again, we're in zone 6B here where we're at. We're very close to Hendersonville, North Carolina, where our nursery is. I have this in full all-day sun, and I get some impeccable color in the spring, but I also get some impeccable color in the summer. So those secondary flushes in the summer are really showing out with those amber hues over top.
Amber Ghost, I understand why you put it at number one. It is an amazing, amazing Japanese maple. I think it's a tree that a lot of people can grow easily because it's so highly adaptable. It's got a good shape, and the colors are outrageous. And that is something that's really important on these Ghost series. I mean, what these things are is you're taking a Japanese maple that's already a beautiful tree, and you're adding variegation, and you're adding all these unique things. And Amber Ghost encompasses all of that.
Yeah, it's going to be your favorite tree unless you had an ex-girlfriend named Amber that ghosted you. Then that would be like the worst tree possible to have in your garden. You know, I'm going to go ahead and say that Johnny Depp does not like Amber Ghost. That's probably not his favorite tree in the collection. When you get Johnny Depp's top 5, I'm going to say Amber Ghost isn't in there. Awesome tree. I love Amber Ghost, though. It's one that just continues to show out in every single season. And let us know, if you're watching this, in the comment section on our YouTube channel, your favorites of the Ghost series. We've listed out all 9 of them for you. Let us know your rankings on those. If you're listening to us on the podcast platform, don't worry, you get to play along as well. Go to our Facebook page. It's MrMaple Friends on Facebook. It's a group. And so go to that group, drop in your favorite. I'm sure there's already a voting tab. A lot of people get those up pretty quick after our podcast. But let us know your favorite of the Ghost series. Rank them all top 9 if you want, because we would love to see that. I know the people's choice is typically Purple Ghost. I'll say that Amber is normally and First are always in the mix for that one spot. Those are, I think if I were guessing our collectors voting, you know, Amber, Purple, and First are going to show up in those top 3 spots a lot.
Yeah, and, you know, Matt and I, we've got 2 completely different lists. Talon, he's got a completely different list from us. And these lists can be changing as well as we've learned. So
let's be real. I might walk out in the garden and look at Martha Ghost tomorrow and be like, nope, that's number 1. It can all go out there. You know, one great picture, one great experience, one beautiful day gardening, and the list is all thrown off.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. We tried to bring something fun and different for Buchholz Week. The rankings of the Ghost series from Talon Buchholz, discussing them, and mine and Matt's rankings as well.
Make sure to tune in October 3rd if you're listening to this live. We'll have a very special 10 at 10 October 3rd on Mr. Maple. Make sure to tune in for that one. We're continuing to air videos all week for Buchholz Week. Again, forget Shark Week. You know, that's the Discovery Channel's gig. We got Buchholz Week. I can't even say it. We got Buchholz Week. That's the gardener's week right there. If you like gardening, if you like Japanese maples, if you're a maple collector, hashtag Buchholz Week. It don't get any better than that.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.